The experienced hunter fears and respects nature. They know strange things can happen in the most remote places. And although stealth is key for a successful hunt, that silence can quickly turn against the hunter when they are alone. From a very early age, Luis went camping with his friends, who were much older and familiar with the llanos of Casanare in Colombia. It was near the tail end of the rainy season, not too hot or too cold, the perfect time for a night hunt. Luis was thrilled. His opinion was that everything pointed to an unforgettable experience, and that, let me tell you, would be entirely true, but not in the way Luis expected. The group set out in the afternoon of the 29th of May, 1965. It was a Saturday. They finished setting up their campsite around sunset, and the night hunt began. It was already quite dark when they entered the grassland in search of possible prey, and no stars were shining in the sky. It was pitch black. The sound of crickets, toads, and other nocturnal creatures filled the atmosphere. The air was eerily still. Each of the members of the group could feel that something was off tonight, but none would risk their reputation as hardened outdoorsmen by admitting they were afraid. It had been a few hours of endless meandering in the grassland. Luis, without noticing, separated himself from the rest. He looked around the place, searching for a signal to locate his friends. He didn't call out, because that would ruin the stealth of the hunt. He wanted to prove he was as much as a man as the others, as experienced as the others. He didn't want to be a wet blanket. Luis only had his rifle and an old flashlight. After a few minutes of looking around, he noticed a source of light coming from the tall grass across the field. He was relieved and exhausted. He blinked his flashlight several times to what he thought were his friends, but there was no response. Seconds felt like ages. It all went quiet, with no bird calls, no crickets. The light in the distance started to move, getting bigger and bigger. Luis was stunned on the spot, shaking. He still didn't know what to think. He didn't know what to believe. But before he could figure it out, the light became more and more intense. There was no denying that it was real, and it was getting closer. The ball of light grew. It was some sort of ignition, with ashes swirling around it. Luis felt the heat approaching, going from the gentle comfort of a bonfire to the threatening proximity of a forest fire. But he was frozen in place, holding his breath still, afraid to make a sound. Shortly after, Luis was absorbed by the light. The fireball had embraced him completely, with no ways of escape. For a few minutes, the presence of the fireball was so powerful that Luis' friends noticed it, growing above the jungle like a rising sun. The most experienced one gave no hesitation. They had to run away from there, lest they would risk being captured as well. It is from witnesses alike that the legend of BOLEFUEGO lives on. It is known that in the plains, as the saying goes, a fireball carries a deadly warning that no wise hunter should ignore. through the mystical realms of Latin America, where folklore and the supernatural intertwine. We find the origin stories behind the enigmatic apparition of the fireball. It is said to be an awe-inspiring phenomenon, one which manifests as a luminous source of immense light, hovering at eye level. Its movement has been described as erratic, sometimes remaining still, floating up and down, or chasing down terrified observers at great velocity through the night. To witness its ethereal glow is to feel a primal fear, for it is commonly associated with suffering souls and those who were denied a Christian burial. Across these enchanting lands, we encounter different versions of the fireball, but a common thread unites them. The fireball is commonly linked to a female figure, one possessed by forces of evil, whether mundane or fantastical. These evil forces will outlive that of the female figure in question, taking the afterlife form as the dooming fireball. One such tale emerges from the folklore of Venezuela and Colombia, where a luminous apparition haunts the plain regions. It goes by the name of BOLEFUEGO. According to legend, the BOLEFUEGO is the spirit of a woman who was tragically burned in her own house along with her 2 sons. The cause for the fire remains a mystery, but as a result, the BOLEFUEGO preys upon travelers who are better off not praying once they find themselves lost in the wilderness, because this malignant spirit, unlike other demonic entities, is attracted by prayers. The fireball also found its way to the islands of the Caribbean. Here, a creature known as the sucuyant terrifies villagers and travelers. Comparable to a vampire witch, this mythical being takes the form of an old woman during the day, residing in the village. At night, she sheds her skin, transforming into a ball of fire that soars through the darkness, seeking out unsuspecting victims. The sucuyant is related to the practices of black magic, voodoo, and other obscure rituals. Finally, we have the Brazilian version, the tale of the Cumacanga. A woman cursed to witness her own beheading during Friday nights, transforming into the deadly fireball, while her headless body remains at home. Only with the sound of the roosters in the morning light does her head reunite with the body, ending the haunting spectacle. Many phenomenons, apparitions, and supernatural events alike have been spotted not only in Latin American lands, but also in various regions far from the Tropic. Whatever the name given to the fireball by the communities it haunts, it remains a symbol of mystery, fear, and unseen forces that lurk in the shadows. Whether born from tragic legends, dark magic, or natural phenomena, the fireball continues to ignite the imagination and capture the hearts of those who dare to seek its mesmerizing glow.